Good morning, Bay Ridge. Welcome to another edition of After Hours, where we kind of expand from something in the teaching. This past Sunday, as we were going through 1 Thessalonians 1, 4-10, which I talked about a holy people, at the beginning I mentioned God's election of the Thessalonians and how Paul mentions that. And so I thought I would take just a couple of minutes to talk about the importance of divine election, God's sovereign election. In 1 Thessalonians 1, 4, and 5, Paul said, "For we know, brothers, loved by God, that he has chosen you because our gospel came to you not only in word, but also in power and in the Holy Spirit and with full conviction." And so Paul is giving thanks there. It's part of his Thanksgiving prayer still. And he's thankful because he can tell that the Thessalonians have been chosen by God. Now, that phrase of being chosen by God is all over the New Testament, but it seems strange to us. And admittedly, there is a mystery here. We will never fully comprehend what it means that God chose us before the foundation of time, that we hear our name was written in the Lamb's Book of Life before the foundation of the world. We'll never understand it all, but it's important for us to recognize and think through the fact that God chose us not because of something in us, but because of something in Him. And I want to just give a couple of brief reasons why this has been important in my own life. First, when we comprehend the mystery of divine election, we understand that God is the one who saves, not us. And we recognize that we're saved by faith alone, and we're saved by Christ alone, and we say that it's not by works. But we have a tendency to always somehow bring it back to ourselves. And divine election has been something that has helped me as I've meditated on it to really be reminded that I am saved. I am part of God's people, not because of something in Bret, not because I was smart or wise or good or God needed me in any way. I'm part of God's people because God was merciful to me. When I was running hard the other direction, He was merciful to save me. That leads to the second point, which is divine election really causes me to enter into worship. And this is the point in Ephesians 1, which is one of the longest passages on God's election and saving grace. Paul keeps using this phrase that it is to the praise of His glorious grace. The fact that God has chosen us should cause us to overflow in worship. In a world where billions are lost right now, we are part of God's people, and that's not because of something in us, but because of something in God's grace and His mercy. And that should overflow in daily and weekly worship and praise to God. Thirdly, it gives us confidence in reaching out to other people. Some people think that it would be the exact opposite, but we can have great confidence. That neighbor, that family member, that friend, that person you may just run into that seems very hard, closed off to the gospel, far away, we never know how the Holy Spirit is at work among them. This propelled the apostles into mission. As Paul was there in Thessalonica, though there had been persecution, though it was continuing there, he knew God was at work. He couldn't see where or when or how until the people started responding to the gospel, but it gave him great confidence. And it can encourage you and I as we are reaching out and ministering to persevere because the Holy Spirit is at work, oftentimes in places we would have never thought. Paul did not seem to be a likely convert when he was on the way to persecute the church in Damascus, but God was reaching down and saving him at that very time. And so these are some reasons for us to think about it. I do want to give one comment and kind of a warning, which is we're never told to look at election. We are always told to look at Christ. We're not saved by election. We're saved by Christ. We don't walk with election. We walk with Christ. And we don't preach election. We're never told to go preach to people about whether they're elected or not. We're told to preach Christ. And so we're always looking at Jesus. But as we're doing so, we're reminded that God has had mercy on us because of something in Him, not something in us. It leads us into worship and it gives us confidence that no one is beyond the reach of God's grace. I hope you have a great week this week, and I look forward to all of us being able to continue to gather together and worship our merciful and gracious God. Don't forget this Sunday we'll have someone from ELIC here, and we'll be talking about ministry in other parts of the world and how we can participate as a congregation. Hope you have a great week. God bless.